those drinks. It's time for Sports Around the Bar. Welcome into Sports Around the Bar, your weekly sports talk show. As always, I am Jake, your bartender, and I'm joined on center stool by my co-host, Drew. And Drew, we've got some NFL news. It's March Madness time. I know we're excited to talk about something that isn't the NFL. We've got a lot going on for this show.
We really do. I'm excited about it getting to March Madness. I know everyone's at home filling out their brackets, trying to figure out the best way to get it. Everyone's shooting to be a millionaire with that perfect bracket, right?
Exactly, and we got the perfect bracket coming up for you. Later in the show, we're going to talk about just the first round today. Tomorrow, we're going to do rounds 2 and the Sweet 16. And then Wednesday, we're going to round out the rest of the tournament with probably the last couple rounds. We'll get you set before the tournament starts on Thursday. You know, we've still got those couple playoff games between now and then. But they don't really matter. I know a lot of places don't really consider them part of the tournament. They don't really penalize you if you don't get those games right. So we're not going to focus on them as much.
What's going on, Matthew? Joshua, I'm glad you can join us. What's going on, Charlie?
Good to see you. Also, Matthew, glad to see you early, man. I know sometimes you come in a little bit later. Good to have you at the beginning of the show because we're talking NFL first, and I know that's something you appreciate. Drew, I think it starts with Vontaze Burfict being cut. Is that the biggest news that you've heard today?
Yeah, because it's probably their best player, even though he's...
on defense, anyway.
On defense, that he's...
I wouldn't put him over A.J. Green.
He's, injury prone, can't stay out of trouble, but, losing him on your defense, I mean, it's going to be a significant hole that you got to fill.
Absolutely, and here's the thing. He was suspended for the first 4 games of last year. Everyone was sitting there saying, oh, when Vontaze Burfict comes back, this defense is going to be fixed. We're playing terrible right now, but we're missing our leader. Well, he got back. Nothing really changed. They were one of the worst defenses in the NFL. And now I hear everybody talking about, oh, the guy can't play. He's overrated. He's not that good. Drew, I don't think we can put any of this on Vontaze Burfict at all. I mean, you look at the way the defense was playing without him. It's just as bad with him. Right,
but he didn't stay very long healthy. I mean, he was injured right when he got back. Michael Davis. Sharif, what's going on, man? Michael Davis said, dude should have been cut a long time ago.
He's an attitude problem, but I get it. When you don't have all the talent in the world, sometimes you need somebody that can go. You need that Lance Stevenson that can go get in the other team's ear and just annoy the heck out of him. He did that with the Steelers. He did that with the Ravens. He was really good at creating chaos on the offensive side of the ball. And he was one of those guys that you're like, I just don't want to play against this guy. He's quote-unquote dirty, whatever you want to call it. I think it helps to have one of those guys on your defense sometimes.
We already got a couple people already saying where he's going. Bees is saying he's going to be a Raider. Or not a Raider, I'm sorry, he's going to be a Patriot. We'll see. And then Sharif says he's going to be a Raider.
I wouldn't think that's a big deal. I think they could probably use him out there in Oakland. As to whether the Patriots get him or not, I think if the Patriots get him at the right price, if they get him super cheap, he'll be a Patriot. But the Patriots don't pay for these kind of guys. So unless everybody else says we don't need him, I don't think he winds up in New England, although I think he'd be good there. Again, he's one of those kind of nasty defenders that I think they really especially need. If you look at the way their front seven played this year, Trey Flowers is gone for New England. I think they could use a guy like that playing linebacker next to Hightower.
Yeah, no, I agree. To be honest, a lot of teams could use a middle linebacker that's mean like Burfict, to be honest with you. A lot of teams.
Absolutely. Now, also, Haloti Ngata is retired here, Drew. It was a long career, man. He might have been one of the most consistent defensive tackles in the game, especially back when he was with the Ravens. He was one of the league's best, and he bounced around from Detroit, Philadelphia. He's been around a little bit. But to see a guy like this go, that's put in this kind of career, it's always sad.
What's going on, Will? He also took a long hike to let everyone know at the top of the mountain that he is retiring from the NFL. I do got one question from you, and it does kind of float around this guy's name. Is he a Hall of Famer?
I think he's close. I think he's really close, man. When you look at the way he played in Baltimore, and you look what he did for Philadelphia, I think you got to sit there and say, for as long of a career as he had and as dominant as he was, I would really consider putting him in there. Is it going to happen overnight? No, he's not first ballot. You're not going to be talking about him in 5 years, but maybe 10, 15, 20 years down the road when they get one of these spots to open up, we might see him in the Hall of Fame. The problem with the NFL is only so many guys going every year. I think it's 5 or 6.
Right.
So there's just such a backlog of guys that need to go in there. And quarterbacks are going first. You know that, there's some of these spots reserved for coaches and media members and everything like that. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. But maybe 15 years from now, we'll be talking about Haloti Ngata and we're saying, you know what? I remember how great he was.
Sharif saying Ngata was his favorite Raven. That's surprising. Really? Over Ray Lewis?
Just talk about a workman. I mean, yeah, he's not the flashy player, but he used to be. He actually used to be the flashy guy in the defensive line, but he's never one of those guys that you're like, he's outspoken. He just goes up, he shows to work, and he dominates, and that's what he did.
Yeah,
for years.
He definitely did.
Let's move on. Let's talk about the Chiefs signing Brashawn Breeland, cornerback. Drew, how excited about this move are you?
I'm excited. I mean, we need a starter. I mean, there's no doubt about it. In a corner next to Fuller, we need another guy. Brian says he thinks that Ngata, I can't talk.
Haloti Ngata
is a Hall of Famer, but this signing with Breland, I mean, he's used to starting, so it's going to be nice to bring someone in that's used to the scrutiny that comes in as a corner in the NFL. If you make mistakes, you will get pointed out, and the Chiefs secondary knows all about that.
All I can say is it can't get any worse. I'm not going to sit there and tell you this is a home run
that.
signing. I'm not going to sit there and tell you the Chiefs defense is fixed because they brought Rashawn Breeland in. But if they can fix the pass rush again, I think he'll hold up better against some of these guys than what they've had in years past. It's a step in the right direction. Let me go with that.
Yeah.
So if I'm a Chiefs fan, this is somewhat positive news.
No, it is.
Then again, if I'm Derek Carr and I got Antonio Brown, I'm not like, oh no, he's out of the game.
I still think we should be taking a corner with our first pick, regardless of who we sign.
I think you're probably right. Also, the Eagles signed Sendejo, 31-year-old safety from the Vikings. Only a one-year deal. I couldn't find any financials before the show. Do you think this helps their secondary out? Because that was the big weakness for the Philadelphia Eagles last year. They had the great defensive line, and they couldn't cover the pass long enough to really shut down defenses. I think Sendejo can help him, even though he is kind of a hitter. He's a box safety. No, I'm just kidding. But he is one of those guys that I think he's a veteran. He's wily. He can make a bunch of tackles. He's really good at pass defense as well. He's one of those versatile safeties. I think they can put him in multiple situations, and he can kind of succeed for them. I like this move.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, there's no doubt about it. They need help back there, but really, there's a lot of talent back there. What they were hit with was the plague of injury. I mean, they could not stay healthy. So when you add someone like that in your secondary, who when one of your starters go down, you have someone else to fill it in.
Also, Will says John Lynch needs to go to the Hall of Fame. As a player, I totally agree with you. As a GM, I'm going to say pump the brakes on that one. But yes, I agree with you. As a player, I would like to see John Lynch in there. The problem is safety, again, like so many other positions, they take back seats to wide receivers because they make all the flashy plays. Quarterbacks, you have to put a quarterback in there. I mean, you're always talking about this guy's coming up at quarterback. How does this guy not in the Hall of Fame at quarterback? It's tough for safeties out there, man. I don't know if John Lynch is going to get in anytime soon, but he absolutely deserves to.
Jake was grinning when he was talking about the Chiefs, wasn't he, Sharif? I saw it too.
What? I said it was a good move for the Chiefs. I'm happy the Chiefs are moving on to a better place. Let me say that.
Matthew says, how about Nick Easton signing with the Saints after he left the Vikings? I can't blame him. Which team's closer to the Super Bowl? Saints.
And that's a great point that I also want to point out about the Cleveland Browns. Everyone's ready to crown them as the Super Bowl champions. Remember, the Vikings were in the same spot last year. We were talking about the Vikings were like, dude, they're only adding people on defense. Like, they're only getting better. They got Kirk Cousins now. They got a real quarterback. It's game over. And then what happened? They fell apart. It just didn't work out. I wonder if Cleveland's headed off to the same thing. Not to go off topic there. But
no, you're good. Talking about this signing, though, I mean, the Saints got to be huge sigh of relief. I mean, when Max Unger decided to retire, there was a void in that middle of the line. And
it came after that first wave of free agency. So They couldn't go after someone like Matt Paradis. They couldn't go get another offensive line to play in the interior because it was so late. You missed out on the top-tier talent. To get a guy like this late, I think is great for the Saints. It's still not the same as what they had last year, but it's, again, a good replacement.
No, it definitely is. I mean, maybe a step down just a little bit because Max Unger, he dominated that offensive line right in the middle. He was your captain, calling out how blitzes and all that stuff. But Easton isn't, he knows how to do it too. No doubt about it. James says, how long before Odell Beckham Jr. starts crying in Cleveland?
Well, I hope they nail the kicking nets down to the ground. If they do that, I bet you he probably makes it 8 games. No, I'm kidding. I don't think he's going to be as big of an attitude problem with a quarterback that can get him the ball. I think it's going to be, if anything, the other direction where he's like Jalen Ramsey, where he's just talking a lot. Because I think they're going to be pretty successful, at least in the pass game. I think last year a lot of the complaining and the years past came from just frustration because Eli Manning could not get the job done. He couldn't get him the ball, and when you've got all that talent and nobody can throw you the ball, I can only imagine how frustrating that is.
Chris, we are doing the bracket. We're only going to do round 1 today, and then tomorrow we'll hit a couple more rounds. Just to bear with us, we're getting through the NFL news.
We'll have the entire bracket out to you before the tournament starts on Thursday. We're probably going to do a show tomorrow, just to re-highlight here, doing the next couple rounds, and then Wednesday we'll probably round out the probably Elite 8 onward. So we'll get everything you need. We're going to talk about that in just a second. We got a couple more stories to go first, and it starts with Ryan Fitzpatrick going to the Dolphins here, Drew. Journeyman quarterback. Obviously, he's been around. He's been a Bill. He's been a Titan. He's been on a lot of bad franchises. Can the Dolphins realistically go into the season with this guy as the starter?
No, this is a tank season.
No.
It's
not a tank season.
Yes, it
They're
is.
going to go make a mistake.
Yes,
Here it is. They're going to go make a mistake, and they're going to trade the franchise away to go get a high quarterback this year, whether it's Kyler Murray or whether he goes to Arizona and they have to settle for Dwayne Haskins. They're going to go get one of those guys. And when they do, you're going to see Ryan Fitzpatrick out there for the first 4 games. They're going to lose 3 of them. And then Fitzpatrick's going to go back to the bench, and we're going to be talking about that rookie getting thrown into the fire with no weapons around him, kind of like Arizona did to Josh Rosen. So be prepared for that, Dolphins fans. They're not tanking the season.
It's a tank season.
You don't tank in the NFL. That's the fastest way to lose a job.
It's the reason why Bridgewater didn't sign with the Dolphins. He could have started this year and played as quarterback all 16 games if he could stay healthy.
I don't think that's it.
And he was like, if I do that, they're going to flop all around me. I'm going to go 0-16, 1-5, 2-14, and I'll never start again in the NFL.
Now, I do think he said that.
He decided that what made the most sense was go be backup with the Saints. And I know there's another quarterback, and it's blanking my mind right now, that also turned the Dolphins down as well, and I can't remember who it was. But he also decided that he would go be a backup somewhere else.
Well, let me say this. I think the reason Teddy Bridgewater's not down in Miami right now is because they didn't make him any guarantees. I think he wanted a longer-term deal. I think he wanted to be the guaranteed starter. I think he knows the Dolphins are going to go draft a quarterback here. And I don't think he's willing to go play that backup role again because, like you said, you only get so many chances in the NFL. I think Teddy Bridgewater probably saw the writing on the wall that the Dolphins are going to go draft somebody. They're only giving me a 1 or a 2 year contract that's still escapable by the team, so they're not married to me. I want to go get that long contract. I'll just back up the Saints again, and if something happens to Drew Brees, you're going to see me in a great offense. I'm going to get that starting spot, and if not, he's going to do the dance again next year.
Tanking the season.
They're not tanking. There's no way. They're going to at least try.
Will says he's got to ask, what about the Bucs bringing in Shaq?
I like it. Again, you can't add enough pieces in Tampa Bay, especially when you look at the way they played this year. I don't think it's going to change everything overnight, but I think it's a step in the right direction. Wouldn't you say so?
Yeah, no, I think so too. And then Michael Davis said the Rams signed Bortles. I don't really know if that's NFL news.
I think it's amazing he isn't signed to the AAF. Speaking of which, Johnny Manziel is back in the AAF, and he's going to play for Memphis. You know, he had to clear waivers being a free agent in the middle of the season, so Memphis got first dibs at him since they're sitting at 1-5 here, Drew. Is Manziel going to reinvigorate his NFL career here?
He's with Mike Singletary. Talk about a hard-nosed coach. I mean, but he seems to struggle with keeping his locker room secure. I don't know, man. I don't think so. I don't think so at all.
I agree with you.
This is good for the AAF, though.
Yeah, you're going to get another 3 or 4 weeks out of Johnny Manziel before that next drug problem comes up or something.
It wasn't drugs, it's partying.
Well, he's done everything under the sun at this point. Look, I do hope he turns it around. I hope, for his sake, he gets his life in order and he can kind of get his football career back on track. And let me tell you this, with the AAF quarterbacks, he's definitely in the right place to do it. He can go in there and be the best guy in that league from day one, or at least whatever, week 6, week 7, to the rest of the season, and maybe wind up on an NFL roster if he plays his cards right. So I'm not going to sit there and say it's the worst move for him, but now he's got to stay clean, and we haven't seen him do that, whether it's Canada, whether it's on the Browns or anywhere else. He hasn't been able to do that to this point in his career.
Sharif says you're hating again on Teddy, and then Shay's hating on Teddy saying Teddy sucks.
I'm not hating on Teddy. Again, if I'm Teddy Bridgewater, I think this is the right move because obviously the Dolphins weren't going to give you a real chance to be a starting quarterback. You don't want to go in there for 4 games, get benched like Tyrod Taylor, and you wind up in a similar situation where you're just trying to land a backup spot like Tyrod did.
Hold on. I mean, you don't bring in a quarterback, pay him, anywhere from $10 to $15 million a year. I don't know what the contract was offered to him. And sit there and go, we're only going to play you for 2 games until we put a rookie in.
Are you talking about Fitzpatrick? Fitzpatrick was 2 for 11. That's what they gave him. And I think they probably offered Teddy a similar contract. And he said, you know what?
No,
I'm going back to the Saints.
What I'm getting at is the fact that you're talking about bringing in Teddy Bridgewater just to have him start a few games. No, you're bringing him in to hopefully he shines and does well for your organization. He might not be the long-term answer, but you're not trying to put your rookie out there. And I know you're big about that because you don't want to put your rookie quarterback.
I want them to be out there in the right situation. But again, I don't think the Dolphins were really set on we're going to play Teddy Bridgewater. They probably looked at it like if he gives us 8 games until the rookie's ready, or if it's 4, or if it's 2 like Baker Mayfield, then we'll put him on the bench and we'll put the rookie in there. And I don't think Teddy Bridgewater wanted that. I think he played the right hand here and went back to the Saints where he can be successful, especially if something happens to Drew Brees. I think they've kind of made it clear that they don't expect Taysom Hill to be that, total second backup. I think he's more of a wildcat guy they use to change things up. So I think Teddy Bridgewater made the right move. I'm not dogging Teddy Bridgewater here, even though he's not my favorite quarterback.
No, I think he made the right move too.
I just don't think Miami was going to give you a legitimate chance. So he did the right thing going back to the Saints.
That I just can't agree with. I think that they'd give him every chance underneath the sun. The question is, the team around him's not good enough, regardless of how well he plays, to make a difference.
The reason I think that separates where you're at and where I'm at is he went to Miami, even though the Saints put an offer out there in front of him, so he at least entertained it, and then he said, I'm good. If he was that set on it, where he's like, I'm going to go play for the Saints or anything like that, he would have stayed in New Orleans. Or he would have signed that contract right away. Or if Miami had given him something that good and said, we're willing to make you the starter for this team, he would have taken that deal. There's a reason he didn't just take the Saints deal right away, because he knew they're going to be bad. Well, that's it. He knew the Dolphins are going to be bad. He knew the Saints are probably going to be good. So he sat there and still took that interview with Miami in case they said, you can be our starter. And that's what I think happened.
Well, we'll go with it.
All right.
I mean, if that's what you want to go with, I'll go with it.
All right, man. We got some NCAA brackets to talk about here. A lot of games in the round one. We're going to start with Duke. Guys, we're also going to get your opinions here. We're going to sit there and go through, ask you guys who you think is going to win every one of these games, and we're going to keep track of that too. So obviously, Drew.
You want to write it down or you want me to write it down?
I'll write it down. I got it. It starts with Duke versus, who knows, because we have a playoff here. Tomorrow, I believe this game is. NC Central versus North Dakota State. Does it matter? I mean, realistically, does it matter? I know we had Virginia lose to a 16 seed last year, but come on, this is Duke, right?
Right. No, it doesn't matter. It does not matter. This team is dominating the tournament all the way to the Final Four, no doubt about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, especially when you look at some of these matchups, they should be on cruise control. I don't think there's really a huge matchup, at least not until maybe the Sweet 16 that they're going to have to worry about here. I think when you look at Duke, they've got to win. Let us know in the comments, is Duke going to win round one? Help us out here, because we need it.
We need to know. Do you guys think Duke is going to win?
Absolutely, man.
Will's got Marquette in his Final Four.
Well, that's interesting. We're going to talk about them here coming up. With Duke, they've got 3 potential top 5 NBA draft picks here with R.J. Barrett, Zion, and then Cam Reddish. You look at these guys, there's no way they drop a game to a 16. I just can't see it. I know Virginia has been, not talked about in the same caliber, but they've been a 1 seed. They've been talked about for the past couple of years where this team's really good. It's still not the same it's still not the same team as Duke. So I can't sit there and say that Duke is going to drop this game. It's like a 100% chance for me. It's not going to happen.
I mean, that's what they've said for years and years, and then it finally did happen. So, no, Zion will take over this game, and you're just talking about a guy that literally plays both sides of the court. It is. The only thing about Duke that's really going against them is their 3-point shooting and their foul and their free throws. I mean, they literally struggle on both those. So maybe NC Central or North Dakota State could come out and just start launching threes, and then they're playing behind, but I don't see that happening.
Chris says Duke will choke. Chris, is it going to happen in this round? I mean, if they're going to choke, it's not going to be against a 16 seed, I don't think. I think they could beat this team in either one of these teams in their sleep. So I'm going to sit there and pencil in Duke. I think everybody kind of agrees they're going to make it through. The next game, though, this one's interesting to me. We actually disagree here. It's VCU versus UCF here, Drew. Now, VCU, I mean, they've got some good wins. They beat Temple. They beat Texas. They beat Wichita State. And then UCF, I look at it, they've only scored 70-plus points in 2 of their last 7 games, man. They're not an offensive powerhouse in UCF. I think that's going to be the difference here. I think VCU has the good enough wins. They have the resume. I think they're going to show up in this much closer matchup than what we're talking about in the last game.
I do think this is going to be a real close game, and I think it's going to come down to the last point. And, I'm kind of big about my 8th and 9th seeds. I'm always kind of big about those being – a 50-50. And it's just, to me, I think UFC, even though they're not a high-scoring team, I think defensively they can hold back VCU, and this is where I'm seeing that they can get this win.
I'd like to see a little more consistency. That's why I'm going to go with VCU instead. And again, they have good wins. They beat Temple. They beat Wichita State. Both kind of teams that have made splashes lately, and they also beat Texas as well. I think VCU has got to be the favorite here. I'm going to go with them over UCF, but you guys obviously don't have to agree with me there. I think this one, again, is one of the closer matchups.
Yeah.
This one's almost a toss of a coin. This is the bracket buster right here.
Sharif and Chris both go UCF.
Moving forward, let's talk about Mississippi State going up against Liberty. Obviously, a 5-seed playing a 12. Mississippi State is the heavy favorite here. But I almost picked this one as a turnover, or as a upset game, and the reason is because Mississippi State cannot keep turnovers from happening. I mean, they're 3rd in the SEC in 3-pointers, so they can shoot the ball really well, but they turn the ball over on a ridiculous rate. I think it's almost like 1 in 5 possessions they're turning the ball over. If Liberty can sit there and capitalize on some of this, Drew, I can see an upset in this game. This, again, when you talk about bracket busters, I really, really wanted to sit there and pick this 12 seed. But I couldn't go with Liberty. I was like, I just don't feel like they're a strong enough team.
Yeah, and I think one of the struggles that Liberty has is what kind of matchup has they been playing? Have they been playing the kind of competition that Mississippi State has? And I think that's going to be an issue. And don't get me wrong, when the tournament starts, it's all about streaks. It's all about who gets hot at the right time. But I just see Mississippi State controlling Liberty in this game.
Also, Shea wanted to know if the Saints win the Super Bowl, can he have the Thanos glove? Look, Shea, it's not mine to give away. I'm sorry. Well, if you want to make a bet, we can make a bet, but I don't know, man. I'll take the field over the Saints winning the Super Bowl at this point.
Will says Mississippi State. Shay is saying Liberty. And Sharif is saying Liberty, Liberty, Liberty.
We're going with the upset. All right.
It's an upset.
All right. I'm actually going to fill this in after the show because I can't do it right now.
Anyway. That's why I asked if you wanted me to write it.
It's all good. Next, we got Virginia Tech going up against St. Louis. A 4 versus a 13 here. I think Virginia Tech is obviously the pretty heavy favorite. But when you look at St. Louis, I mean, they won the A-10 tourney. That's the best that I can sit there and say that they've done, Drew. Again, it's A-10. It's not anything special. This is one of those play-in games that really, you look at this, Virginia Tech should have no problem with this. They're top 10 in three-pointers in the entire NCAA this year. They also have Justin Robinson back from injury. I think Virginia Tech is going to dominate this one, but this is what makes the tournament so hard to call because they could drop this game.
They could, but I don't see it happening. I think Virginia Tech is definitely one of these 4 seeds that's kind of a dark horse in this. If they didn't have to play Duke at some point in time, possibly in the Sweet 16, well, that would be the time they'd play each other. I think they have a possibility of reaching the Final Four, but just where they're at, good luck getting past Duke. But I see them taking care of this team, or the St. Louis perfectly fine.
I think you're absolutely right. Next, let's talk Maryland versus either Belmont or Temple, whoever makes it in. And let me say this is another upset game. I'm taking Belmont here because I think they're going to cruise through the game versus Temple. I think they're going to beat Maryland as well in this game. When you look at Maryland, they have tons of turnovers, and I hate that in NCAA teams. When you're talking about a big stage against teams you can't prepare for because it's only a couple days notice of when you actually know who you're going to play. It's not like the conference tournaments. You know all those teams. It's not like the season. You've got the schedule ahead of it and everything. Yeah. You've got a couple days to prepare for a team like this, and when you already generate a ton of turnovers on your side of the ball, at least when you are, sorry, I forgot who we were talking about. Maryland. I was like, that doesn't sound right. When you're Maryland and you're already turning the ball over all the time, I can't sit there and pick you. I'm going to go with the upset here. I think Belmont is going to get this win, and they're also going to beat them as well because Belmont is a sneaky school that is, when you're not paying attention to them, a good enough team to upset you. I think Maryland's going to make too many turnovers. That's going to happen. That being said, they're top 5 in offense and defense.
Yeah.
But they turn the ball over a lot. Drew, do you see this as an upset game, or do you think that they're going to be able to cruise through on this one?
Well, us living in Nashville, we've heard all the hype about Belmont. We've seen it all, through the news and all that stuff, and it's kind of hard not to get favored into that and saying if Belmont can beat.
Let me rephrase that. Maryland is also a top 5 offense and defense in the Big Ten, not across the nation, in the Big Ten.
Well, if they can beat Temple, which I think they possibly can, tomorrow, I would have to sit there and say that they have a good opportunity of beating Maryland. But you're talking about one of the best teams in the Big Ten, one of the best teams in the nation in Maryland. I gave it to Maryland personally.
I understand. Again, be on the lookout here. I wouldn't be surprised if Maryland wins this one because obviously they are the heavy favorite. But this, to me, is an upset game. I think this one is going to be interesting to watch, especially when you're talking about a 6 seed versus an 11.
We are all upsets here. St. Louis has an upset. We got Belmont taking the upset.
The crowd is fading right now. So, look, I like it. It makes everything interesting. You're going to hit on 1 or 2 of these. You're going to tell me I told you so, but you're going to miss the rest of them. And I'll be like, what about
Shay, I do own that glove.
Moving forward, let's talk about LSU versus Yale, Drew. When you're talking about a 3 seed versus a 14, it's usually set in stone, right? You want to sit there and say the LSU should have the key advantage. They should be able to be the favorite here, but they're without their coach. Obviously, they're dealing without that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, you look at this game. Not to mention Yale has Maione. That could be a first-rounder in the NBA. This, to me, is going to be an more interesting matchup than it probably should be. Then again, you look at LSU. This team's beaten Kentucky. It's beaten Tennessee. I get they don't have a coach, but these have far and away the better team, far and away the better players, and impressive wins on the docket as well. If they didn't choke in the SEC, we might be talking about them a 2 or a 1 seed.
And if you look at Yale's overall record, which I don't have in front of me, they have double-digit losses. I mean, they're not talking about a team that's been dominating their own conference. I mean, this is a team that's, does well in the Ivy League. But beyond that, I just don't see it. Even LSU without their head coach, LSU I think is going to take this game perfectly.
They're going to get through this round. I think they might struggle in the next rounds going forward, but we'll talk about that at a later date. Why don't we talk about Minnesota going up against Louisville here? A 7 versus a 10, Drew. Obviously, Louisville has all the history of basketball.
No, Shay, I don't.
They're a basketball. They're a basketball school. But I look at this. I mean, Minnesota also beat is one of the Big Ten co-champions, or they beat Purdue twice. I'm sorry, who is the Big Ten co-champion twice during the season within 10 days, in the tournament and then in the season. So they've got impressive wins. They're a good team. I look at this squad. I'm saying upset all the way. I think the 10 seed wins this one.
I can't do it. I just can't do it. I think Louisville is the favorite here. I mean, obviously, as a 7 seed over a 10 seed. And Shay's right. he put out there a little bit ago, if I could find it. He's talking about 10 seed and another seed always being one of the most dangerous seeds in the bracket. But man, Louisville's just been just a dominant team in NCAA for such a long time, and it's just in Minnesota, man, isn't that a hockey state?
Yeah, you'd think so. But then again, Drew, I like Minnesota here, and another reason I'll say that is because Louisville, even though they're a top 20 defense in the nation, they're inconsistent on offense. And when you're talking about teams you can't game plan against, you don't really get a lot of time to prepare for. When your offense already struggles, I'm worried about this one. I really am. I think Louisville is in a prime spot for an upset here. Street also wants to know what I'm drinking on, man. It's a home brew tonight, so maybe I'm a little bit out there, guys. Let me know in the comments if you think Louisville should win this one easy.
Brian's going LSU. He said, a bet for the Infinity Glove. Even the refs can't stop us this year. And then Will says, when has the Ivy League dominated? Serious question.
It's been a very long time.
Long time.
And I get it, but again, you're talking about LSU that's still kind of rattled from having their head coach suspended indefinitely by LSU for all these, pay-to-play allegations and everything out against him. So if there's a time for an Ivy League school to upset a 3 seed, I think now is the time. I really do. I still like LSU's roster. I still think they're going to be just fine in this one. But if they were going to lose to a 14 seed, probably now is the time. This is your best chance. It's not going to happen. I'm with you.
It's not going to happen.
I'm with you. Let's move on, though, Drew. Why don't we talk about Michigan State versus Bradley? A 2 seed versus 15, Michigan State. Do you see anything going on in this game?
No. I think in the Elite Eight, this is Duke's possibility of losing to get to the Final Four. I know that sounds crazy, but I honestly believe in Michigan State. I think they're a real tough team, and they have a possibility of going all the way. I'm
going to disagree. I mean, they have some pretty serious injuries here. They've lost guys like Langford and Ford. I think Michigan State. Look, I'm not going to call the upset here. I also picked Michigan State for this round, but you look at the way that Bradley shoots threes. They were shooting 39% from three. They're a really good three-point team. If they get hot in this game versus a team that's missing some of their best players for the year, they could win this game. They really could. I mean, that's what it's going to come down to. Are they going to be able to hit enough threes to outshoot Michigan State, who's one of the better defensive teams? I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. I'm not going to sit there and say I'm confident enough to pick Bradley in an upset, but if you're going to pick one, if you got to throw one of these upsets because you've been going all favorites up until now, I still like this one. I think you could actually pick this as an upset.
Sheree says Michigan State is one pissed off team, and Will is going the Spartans as well.
I think you got to. When you're talking about 2 versus 15, we're way out there. I mean, it's almost as bad as the 16s. Yeah, I mean, it's almost as bad of a matchup there. But again, when you've got a team that can get hot from the 3-point line like Bradley, that's what I want to see. When I'm talking about upsets, I want to see a team that can shoot threes because all you got to do is have a good 20 minutes where you're hitting threes in the second half, and you can win that game. And yeah. I'm just saying Bradley can do it. They're already shooting almost 40% from three.
Which is a great stat.
Now, you could sit there and tell me that they're not playing anybody good, and I might buy that. But I don't know, Drew. Like I said, sometimes all it takes is a good 15, 20 minutes in the second half, and all of a sudden you're talking about Bradley upsetting Michigan State.
Before we go on to our next little segment of the NCAA, we just want to remind everyone out there, if you guys have not picked a team for our mock draft for the NFL, we still got tons of positions open. I think we got,
about 10 to 12.
10 to 12 of them out there. I know there's still like the Steelers. I know there's still the Rams. There's still a lot of teams out there. I don't know if any of you guys are one of them. I know the Broncos are out there as well. Guys, tell us what you want to pick. Grab one of these teams up. Even if it's not your favorite team, even if it's a team you dislike, join the fun. Join this mock draft.
Absolutely, guys. We still need about 10 teams, 12 teams, something in there. So we'll throw out a post showing who's left. So if there's one of those teams you want, you let us know. We'll make sure you get them. Why don't we move on, though, Drew? Why don't we talk about our next game, which is Gonzaga versus another play-in, which whether it's, Dickinson or Prairie View, does it matter? Honestly, they're going to steamroll them here. I got to take Gonzaga on this one. I think Gonzaga is one of the most efficient offenses in the entire country.
Shay, the Saints don't have a first-round pick. And Kenneth said, will any of the number 1 seeds pull that off? I think he's talking about the whole entire tournament. I would say Duke is definitely a high favorite, and Gonzaga is a high favorite.
I like Gonzaga as well. I think Duke is good. I still like Virginia. I know everyone's down on them. I don't think they're a consistent team, but I think they're a very good team when it comes to short bursts. And if they can put together a good 4, 5, 6 games here in this tournament, we might be talking about them making a deep run or maybe even a win. I don't know, though, Drew. Again, a lot of times we do see those 1 seeds make it pretty deep. I like all 4 of them this year.
Yeah, I do too. It's a good possibility. I think the weakest one, just because their history's Virginia. But talk about a pissed off team. Virginia's a pissed off team.
They should be. They absolutely should be. I mean, when you look at some of the losses this year, they need to be playing pissed off if they're going to make it, because this is a team that I think sleepwalks sometimes, Drew. They let their guard down and they lose to teams they shouldn't. So are we in for another repeat this year where they lose to 16? I can't wait to talk about that. But I don't think so either.
Oakland's taken and the Titans are taken, Shay. Sorry, man.
Why don't we talk about Syracuse and Baylor next? Another 8 versus 9. These are the best matchups usually that you see in these tournaments, Drew. Obviously, Syracuse is one of the best three-point defenses in the game, but then again...
Did we skip Gonzaga?
No. I mean, aren't you saying Gonzaga?
Yeah.
We talked about them for a minute. I said they're one of the most...
I don't listen to you.
What do you want to talk about? How they're going to steamroll whoever makes it? Because I said it doesn't matter.
It doesn't, but I just didn't... I did I nod my head yes?
Fair enough. Moving on to Syracuse, though, man, they have one of the best three-point defenses in the entire league. And then you look at Baylor. I mean, they're a dangerous team, but they just have a ton of injuries, man. I mean, they lost Clark for the season. They've lost a bunch of other guys as well. They're a beat-up team, but one that if they stayed healthy, I think we're talking about them being a 3, 4, 5 seed. And we're talking about how they might make a deep run in the game. Do you think they have enough here to pull this win off? Who are you taking?
I have Syracuse taking this, and you're right on there. I mean, I like Baylor, but I just don't think
the injuries are too much.
Yep.
Yeah.
Shay, you can have the Steelers, man. It's yours.
All right. Going on to this game, though, I'm going to take Baylor. I'm going to disagree with you here, Drew. I think Baylor is, again, when you're talking about these injuries and everything, they've played really well, even despite those injuries. I think they're going to be able to overcome, at least for one round. I just can't make them a one and done. I think they're going to manage to make it to round 2, and that'll be about it.
Well, Sharif is going to pick the Cuse, and Sam is also going to pick Syracuse and that killer coach they have. That's a little bit below the belt, man. A little bit below the belt. And Brian says, always like the orange and that weird old zone D. Man, hey, whatever works, right?
Absolutely. Why don't we talk Marquette next? Because they're playing Murray State in the first round. Obviously, everyone's saying Marquette is a sleeper team. I think they might be right. I mean, I like this matchup. I obviously took them in this one, Drew. Do you see an upset here?
No. That's just the best way to put it. No, I also have Marquette going as far as possibly the Elite 8 in this.
Now, the one thing I will say, if you do want to fade the picks, everyone's going to be on Marquette. Everyone's going to be sitting there saying they might make a deep run. Ja Morant could be a top 3 pick in the NBA. He could be. And who does he play for? Murray State. Which means we might actually have a matchup here where one guy can take this game over. He can have a Kemba Walker-like NCAA tournament where he talks about them making a deep push with this guy. This guy is a great player. He's all they've got, but he's really good. And basketball, sometimes that's all it takes. I know usually the team wins, but sometimes individuals can overcome a team. That being said, man, they're good. They're a complete team. I like Marquette. I like them to make a deep run here. I'm picking them in this one. I think Morant's going to be out, but again, you talk about upsets. This is why nobody ever has a perfect bracket, Drew, because he could do this.
He could. There's no doubt about it, but I just don't see it. Like you said, a complete team in Marquette. Obviously, like you've also said, one of the dark horses in this tournament to go very far in it. Unfortunately, they got to face Gonzaga at some point in time.
Absolutely. Florida State versus Vermont. I mean, I look at this one, I'm going to say Florida State's got to have this in hand. They're the ACC's best defense. They beat Virginia in their tournament as well. And you look at Vermont, all I can sit there and say is they won the America East. So they won in the small pond. Now that you're playing in the big pond, man, this is going to be a slaughter. It should be. Honestly, Florida State needs to take care of this because if they don't, I mean, I feel like this is going to be one of the worst upsets if it happens.
Yeah, no, it would. Now, are you considering that worse than what happened to Virginia last year? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying this year specifically.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if there's necessarily one of these teams. Like, if Duke loses, it's worse. But there's not many things other than that I really see as a bigger upset than this one.
Real quick, Sam said, if you're rich and famous, don't drive, period.
Hire somebody, right? Yeah. Don't ever do anything. Don't ever leave your house. Just wrap yourself in bubble wrap.
I don't go anywhere.
Yeah, because we're both rich and famous now.
You didn't know?
My bank account hasn't got the update yet.
It's pending. It's pending.
I'm glad. Also, moving on here, Drew, you're taking Florida State. I'm taking Florida State. I think everybody's taking Florida State here. Any Vermont fans out there?
Anybody?
Last call? No? Okay.
No chirp. We should have chirping crickets right there.
Next, we have Buffalo versus another play-in. We're talking about Arizona State or St. John's, Drew. Does it matter to you? Do you think Buffalo's going to be able to handle this? I mean, it is a 6 versus an 11.
Yeah. I have St. John's winning. Well, actually, I have both. I got in one bracket. I got Arizona, and one I got.
You are calling an upset. Okay.
No, I don't think so. I really don't think so. Buffalo's a good team.
They are, and you know what the best part about this team is? Their coach, Nate Oates. I mean, this guy, everyone thought he was going to get poached after last year's kind of performance in the tournament. Now I think they're going to be poised to make another decent run here because I think they're going to be able to at least handle this first game. I don't think Arizona State or St. John's is really that scary this year. I think they're both going to kind of get stomped by Buffalo. I think he's going to have the game plan for it. Yeah. I don't think Buffalo's an amazing team, but I think the coach maximizes their talent, and I think they're getting through round one at least, so I'm going to take Buffalo here.
Well, so far, the only vote is St. John's. Sharice got St. John's beating Buffalo.
They are a historic basketball school. I'll say that. I mean, they're a very good team when it comes to basketball. So to see them down at 11, obviously it's not their best year. But St. John's it's a historic program. Maybe they can pull off the upset here. I think Buffalo's going to get this one, though.
Well, so far our bracket is taking St. John's.
Fair enough.
Unless anyone's got anything else to
say.
Speak
now or forever hold your peace.
This is your guys' bracket, so I want to fill it out right.
Absolutely. Next, we have Texas Tech versus Northern Kentucky. Drew, Texas Tech is going to stomp them. I mean, there's no... The Big 12 co-champion, Northern Kentucky, all they can sit there and say is they hit 37% of their threes. Which, again, when I talk about upsets, I want to see a team that can shoot threes really well. Do I see Texas Tech losing this game? No, I don't. They're so much better than the competition. But again, sometimes all it takes is that good 10 minutes shooting the three-pointer, and you can be on to the next round.
I like Texas Tech.
I do too.
I like them. I like them a lot. I actually see them in my Elite Eight, so I don't think they're having an issue at all with Northern Kentucky.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough upset to call, but again, when you see a team that shoots three-pointers, I think that's what you want to look for in an upset. I think they're going to play well. I think this may be a closer game than everybody expects because they shoot the three so well, but I think Texas Tech is going to shut them down. I think a lot of that success comes because of their competition and who they're playing, and I think once they're playing the better defenses, they're going to come up short. I don't really see Northern Kentucky really making that much of a splash. Next, we move on. Let's talk Nevada and Florida here, Drew. A 7 versus a 10. I have Florida going on in this one. I mean, when you look at this, they beat LSU, so they've upset some really good teams. I look at the way this Florida team is set. I think they have guys like Andrew Nimhard that could be a star. I mean, I don't think he's going to be necessarily right now, but he's definitely developed this year. If he has another good year or two in college, we might see this guy in the NBA as well. And then I look at Nevada. I mean, they almost made the Elite Eight, or they did make the Elite Eight last year. No, they came up short. They were Sweet 16, so they almost made the Elite Eight last year. It's still a dangerous team. They got a lot of their guys back. I think Florida is going to be able to dominate LSU in this, or Florida's going to be able to dominate Nevada in this one because they've played the bigger games. They've played against the top level talent, and they've still hung in some of those games. They've upset teams like LSU. I think Florida's going to win this one in an upset.
Well, let's not ignore the fact that when it's a tournament time, it's a whole different atmosphere. An experience inside the tournament is huge. And like what you nailed, they did win.
They've played the big teams.
So they've already done it once. So I'm going to go ahead and go Nevada here. I do like Florida. I think it's definitely a coin toss. But at this point in time, I like Nevada going forward.
I'm going to disagree. Again, when you talk about that, it's a different kind of scenario. It's a different kind of feel to everything. You don't really get a lot of time to game plan against these guys. I want to see a team that's done it against the best in the nation, even with the game planning. They've beat teams like LSU. They've matched up decent against Tennessee and Kentucky. I know they haven't really necessarily got any big wins off those teams, but they've played them multiple times. I think that resume is the reason why they're sitting at 10 when Nevada has the easier schedule going forward. I think Florida's going to win this one.
Sam says Pinky and the Brain will go Final Four. That's an inside joke between me and him, a long-term inside joke, man. It's good to see you on the show. He's also going Florida. Sharice going Florida. And Brian says he wants to go Nevada, but he didn't vote for him. So it looks like right now we're going upset at number 10 with Florida.
All right, guys. Our final for this side of the bracket for the West is Michigan versus Montana. Is anybody picking Montana here? Look, Michigan is a top 5 defense. They've got big wingers. I know we've said this before in the tournament, and they're going to make a big splash and everything. But this year, I think there's actually some truth to it. They play such great defense. I don't really think Montana's going to stand much of a chance. This, again, another write-off, a 2 versus 15. I think Michigan's going to win.
I also think Michigan's going to win.
All right, Drew, I got to turn the page because, again, we've got about 18,000 notes here. But our next matchup is Virginia versus G-Webb, honestly. You look at this, I think Virginia, again, I know they had the upset last year. I get it. They kind of blew it in the tournament, but do you think that's going to come into this game? Are they going to be thinking about that when they go into this matchup and say, we need to play 100% every game here? Or do you think there's another upset on the cards?
Like I said before, I mean, talk about a pissed off team. This is it. This team was embarrassed. And, a lot of these players are back, so they went through it all. They're here to make a mark on in this tournament this year. There's no way they're going to allow this to happen.
They shouldn't. But then again, if there was a team I was going to pick to get upset from these number ones, it'd be Virginia.
Well, not in the first round.
In the first round, yeah. If I had to pick one of these number ones to lose, I mean, would you take North Carolina? Would you take Duke? Would you take Gonzaga here, Drew? I would take Virginia. If I had to put money on it, which one's going to lose? I'd put Virginia.
Okay, if I was going to put money on it. Yeah, okay. I'll give you that.
Then again, they're top 5 in efficiency when it comes to offense and defense. That doesn't mean they're the best, but it means they're the most efficient with their possessions and everything. I like to see that. But they've choked a lot. They're still 41% from the three-point line. They're a great shooting team. Look, I think Virginia's going to win this one in a steamroll. They're going to think about last year. They're going to absolutely maul them, and then we're going to be talking about, is Virginia going to get out of the second round?
Sharif is all about upsets, man. He is going Gardner-Webb for the upset. But unfortunately, Virginia has outvoted you, bud. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we got to go Virginia here. I think that's the prevailing logic. Usually you go with the 1 versus 16 seed. It's happened one time in however long they've done the tournament. I think it's like 200 and some matchups, I think, that they said that the 1 seed has won versus the 16. Got to go Virginia here. I think that's the smart pick. But then again, if you're feeling that good about it, Sharif, go put some money on it in Vegas, and I think you make a killing off it.
Sam's agreeing with you, not that the 16 seed's going to take him, but he's saying that Virginia is the first of all the top seeds to be out in the tournament.
I think you're right there, too. I still like Virginia. I still think they might make a deep push, but I like every one of these top number 1 seeds this year. I think there's still kind of a gap between the 1 and the 3 seed, I'd say. I still like some of the 2 seeds when you got teams like Tennessee and Kentucky that have beat each other up during the regular season. But I think the number 1s are there for a reason. I think they did a good job picking these guys. I think if I got to pick one, I'm still going Virginia.
Yeah.
Next, let's talk Ole Miss versus Oklahoma here, Drew. Again, 8-9. It's always the toughest one for me to call in the first round, right? You look at Oklahoma, they're the second worst offense in the Big 12. It's pretty much all defense when you talk about them.
Yeah.
But then again, Ole Miss, they've beaten Baylor. They've swept Auburn in the SEC, who won the SEC tournament. They beat teams like LSU. No, they didn't beat LSU. I'm sorry. They beat Florida, who beat LSU, and then they beat Tennessee in the final and killed Tennessee in the final.
Right.
I think Auburn's a good team, so that's a good win when you look at Ole Miss. Who do you have going in this one?
Oh, Ole Miss. I don't believe in Oklahoma at all. I don't believe in them at all.
Especially when you're talking about as bad of an offense as they have. I mean, Oklahoma State was the only one worse in the Big 12. They don't score points, but they play really good defense. I think Oklahoma's going to make this a good game because of that defense, but I got to go Ole Miss here too. I mean, when you sweep a team like Auburn that was good enough to win the SEC tournament, I think Ole Miss is the real deal. I think Oklahoma's there because they have some good wins, but they're not in the same caliber. I think they should be a little bit lower of a seed than they are.
Yeah. Well, there goes. Will just broke the tie. Ole Miss is going to be taking this in the fans bracket.
Fair enough. I think you guys are right there too. You kind of agree with both of us. Let's talk Wisconsin and Oregon. What do you say?
We just tied it up. Brian's Oklahoma. I still need another vote from you guys. We need to know Ole Miss or Oklahoma. Give us one more vote, please.
It's like I said, man. It's the hardest game to call out of any of these. When the 8 plays the 9 in this round, it's tough to call. And when I look at it, I'm going Ole Miss, and maybe it's a little bit of SEC bias here, but I think when you look at the teams they've played and the teams they've beat, I think they have the better resume. I think they're still the better team. Even though Oklahoma plays really good defense, they're inconsistent on the offensive side of the ball, and if they don't show up in offense, let's face it, basketball's an offensive game.
Yeah.
You have to be good at offense, I think, at the end of the day, if you want to make any kind of impact in this. I'm going to go Ole Miss here. Let's move on, though. Why don't we talk Wisconsin versus Oregon? Somebody break that tie in the comments section. Will's going Oregon. I'm not sure that has anything to do with it, but that's okay. He's on to the next round talking with us. Wisconsin and Oregon. It's a 5 versus a 12. Will's already calling the upset here. I don't necessarily know if I can go the same direction here. I'm going to go Wisconsin, and I'm going to say that for this reason. They're the best defense in the Big Ten. I get what I said. Offense usually wins these games. When you're talking about the best in a conference, I think they do that really well. They've got guys like Ethan Happ coming back. He's a leader. But he's pretty much all they do on offense. If something happens to Ethan Happ, or if they can find a way to take him out of the game, Oregon has a shot in this one. I'm going to go with Wisconsin with Ball still out. I even though he's a projected first rounder, without him, Oregon I don't think really stands much of a chance.
No, I'm all about Wisconsin in this matchup. As much as everyone's against us, we got Will going Oregon. We got Sharif.
Well, everyone's saying Pac-12, but I mean that was the worst conference when it comes to basketball this year. It was a shit show.
Sam,
I don't know how else to put it. It was a shit show.
Sam, we're not voting for whiskey. We're voting for Wisconsin.
You vote for whiskey.
Oh, man, they just tied it up again. We're going to need a fifth vote, guys. Someone is going to have to reach out there. I know there's more of you watching. Please comment. Let us know.
Break these ties. Absolutely. We need you right now. Settle the debate in the comment section for us. Next, Drew, Kansas State versus UC Irvine. Again, when you're talking about a 4 versus 13, there's not always a lot of help. But then again, I look at UC Irvine. They're one of the top interior defensive teams in the entire nation. Now, I get it. They're probably not playing the same level of competition, but when you see that kind of stinginess, do you think they can kind of force them to the perimeter and make them make bad shots?
No. I don't, man. I fully believe in Kansas State.
The Kansas State homer. Here we go. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I am too.
I gotta do it, man. I believe it. I believe in that core that they have there. I mean, these seniors that have been there for a long time have a lot of experience in the tournament. I believe Kansas State, to be honest with you.
Let me tell you.
I think they're the ones that beat Virginia.
Let me tell you why Kansas State's getting through here. They were the Elite Eight last year, so everybody who's coming back already knows what they're doing.
Exactly.
Big 12 co-champions this year, despite a ton of injuries here. They've overcome. They're still a top 5 defense as well. Kansas State's the real deal. They're going to make an impact in this tournament. I think they're getting through this round for sure. At your Irvine, I think their matchup against Wisconsin that I have picked for them getting through will be a little bit tighter, but I like them in that too. I think it's going to be a fun game. I think Kansas State is going to pretty much lay the wood to UC Irvine, and then they're going to be a fun team to watch going forward in the tournament. Maybe they do off-seat Virginia. Maybe they're the ones that make it all the way through, and we talk about them playing in the Final Four this year.
It's a possibility. Sharif and Will, man, are all about upsets. They got Irvine, both of them. Man, you guys are all about it. And so far, you guys are winning. We still got a couple ties. Ole Miss and Oklahoma. We got Wisconsin and Oregon. Anyone out there, if you think that this
I can't wait to talk about some of these games, and we're going to sit there and be like, what were y'all thinking in the comments? Because every game's an upset. I mean, let's just go reverse seeding right now and just pick those teams. But that's okay. You're entitled to your opinion. You're going to hit on a few of these, and then you're going to be telling me, see? We know what we're talking about.
Like, you just picked it.
And my bracket's going to be out by, like, the first 3 games. So, let's face it.
Just like everyone's last
Just
year.
roll the dice. Yep.
Oh, we got one tiebreaker, Wisconsin. And Oklahoma. There we go. Thank you, Bees.
Absolutely. Great picks there. Let's move on, though. Why don't we talk about Villanova and St. Mary's? Because you look at this, 6-11. Obviously, Villanova is the favorite in this one. St. Mary's, though, has an explosive offense, Drew. Can they overcome a team like Villanova that they've won 2 out of the 3 last national championships? I mean, you talk about experience. You talk about a guy who's been there. It's Villanova.
But they're not the same team. They're not the same team they've been.
And that's the thing. They've lost so many guys. Yeah. They've lost so much talent to the NBA. That's why they're the 6th seed, because they basically had a purge of this team for the past couple of years. Can they overcome? Is this one of those games that they might get upset because St. Mary's comes out and just drops 90 points on them?
I have St. Mary's winning this game.
I do too. I actually think this is a very good upset here. Yeah. I like when I look at this explosive offense St. Mary's has. I get it. It's one of those things where Villanova's been in that spot, but a lot of these guys haven't because of the turnover, or at least they haven't been starting. I like St. Mary's and that offense to make a buzzer beater or something like that where they wind up squeaking through the first round here.
And we are voted out because they all went Villanova.
Just when I think they're all on the upsets. I think they're just disagreeing with us.
Yeah, we throw upsets out there and you guys totally knock it down. I got it. All right.
That's okay. I mean, that's why we're doing it, right? It'll be fun to see where everybody stacks up.
He says we're nuts. He says Villanova's going to win it, man. Don't sleep on St. Mary's, man. Don't sleep on
They have one of the most explosive offenses. If they can get on a run, just like I say, if it's going to be an upset, I want to see the offense because I want to see them have a good 10 minutes in the second half and light up the scoreboard. That's what I want to see out of it. I don't want any of these upsets to say, well, they play really good defense because usually they're a small school. They're not playing really tough teams. They're not used to that top-level talent. I want to see teams that score upset teams because I think that's what's more likely to happen.
Yep.
Moving on, Drew. Purdue versus Old Dominion. Again, 3 versus 14, man. Purdue, they led the Big Ten in 3% or in 3-pointers last year. Even though they lost talent, they're still a 3 seed, man. They are definitely going to make an impact in this. I like Purdue to move on in this one.
I like Purdue on this one and possibly the next one too.
What's something nice I can say about Old Dominion? They won the CUSA tournament. They won Conference USA.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
I think they're a good basketball team. I think that they're going to play well, but I just think Purdue's just...
I think they're better than half of the basketball teams that didn't make the tournament, but honestly, this is one of the worst matchups for me.
Is one-sided, and it's all...
Now go ahead and pick them in the comments section, because I know you guys have been disagreeing with me this whole time.
Oh, Will with Purdue. He's not going upset here.
Thank you, Will. I appreciate it. Moving on, let's talk Cincinnati and Iowa, Drew. 7 versus 10. Another tough matchup to call. I went with Cincinnati here. Who did you go with?
I went Iowa. You know I have to.
Cincinnati beat Ole Miss. They beat UCF. They've got some good wins under their belt here. But then again, you look at Iowa. I mean, they're very clutch. They've got 3 wins by 2 points or less. But they're a bad defense, and they're in a slump. They're 2 for 6 before the conference tournament, or 2 and 6, I should say, before the conference tournament started. I really don't like a team coming in this cold going into the tournament. I think they're going to stay cold. They're going to wind up losing this game to Cincinnati.
I got Iowa, and you know why? Because I root for Iowa. It doesn't matter what's going on. I just...
You're going with the heart here over the mind, huh?
I really do. Every time I fill out my bracket, I'm always playing with my heart. That's just what it is. When I feel it, that's what it is, and it's always led me down the wrong road, but I'll just keep on doing it. Just keep on doing it. Go Iowa Hawkeyes.
Well, at least Sam agrees with you in the comments. I mean, he sits there and picks them. Guys, if you want to sit there and upset him, we got Bees with Cincy. Will Mann with Cincy as well, so I think Cincinnati's probably going to win this one here. Brian's also agreeing with us. Cincinnati is probably going to pull away with this one. I'm with you there, guys. I kind of agree. Our next matchup, Tennessee versus Colgate, the toothpaste. They should be able to win this one, right? I know they've been a little inconsistent. Yeah.
That's always good against Plaque.
Well, let me say this. Tennessee might be the most complete team in this tournament. They have an 8-man rotation. They're one of those teams that everybody, they spent some time at number 1. Everybody's kind of sitting there saying, oh, well, they don't have a Zion Williamson. Admiral Schofield is not a Zion Williamson, but he's a good player that probably will end up in the NBA, maybe a second-rounder instead. He's the leader of this team that's been around the block. I like Tennessee in this one, and I like Tennessee deep into this tournament. I think they're going to make a good run, but I don't think they're going to win it.
Yeah, I like Tennessee as well. I have them in my Elite 8. But that's about it. I mean, I'm agreeing with you. I don't think that they can win anytime those big-time games happen except against Kentucky during the tournament. I mean, They just seem to flop on themselves. As soon as they hit the number 1 seed, they flopped. So I think that's going to happen also in the brackets.
Now Will's just trying to get to me. He says Colgate's winning this one. Okay, all right, go ahead with that, and we'll see who's right. Brian also has the Volunteers. Sam has the Volunteers. Sharif is also going Cincy from before. And Arvin says Tennessee, and I need to buy checkered pants. I already have them. I'm wearing them right now. You can't see them, but pants and underwear. I know we're getting a little too TMI here, but I'm all about the checkerboard. No promises. Moving forward, we have North Carolina playing against Iona. Drew, is this the 16 seed that upsets the number 1?
No.
The Tar Heels are winning this one?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think we need to spend a lot of time here, but they did beat Duke twice this year, and everyone's going to say they didn't have Zion. I get it. It came down to the last minute when they had Zion in the conference tournament. This team is legit. I want to see another matchup between them and Duke. I know they're on the opposite side of the tournament, but I would love to see that as the final.
It would be a great national championship game. There's no doubt about it. They face each other 3 times. You got 2 go to North Carolina, of course, without Zion, but it'd be amazing. It's what the NCAA wants. Let's not forget this. It's what they want.
Will's also going UNC here, and Drew says you need a checkerboard hat. Look, obviously, I didn't know this, but Ben is all in on Tennessee sports, so good to know. We'll keep that in mind going forward.
I will never wear that garbage.
Utah State versus Washington, Drew, an 8 seed versus a 9 seed, man. Do you like Utah State in this one? I mean, they split with the Mountain West. They won the tournament as well. Then again, you look at Washington. They're bad, but, I mean, they get turnovers. They're not a good team. The Pac-12 is absolute garbage when you talk about basketball this year. It's like, it's such a hodgepodge. Nobody knows who's good in that conference because nobody can really seem to dominate it. They're not a good team, in my opinion, but they get a lot of turnovers, and that matters, especially when you're talking about not being ready for these guys, for not really being able to game plan for these guys. Do you like Washington in this matchup?
I do like Washington in this matchup. I do. I think that, I agree that the Pac-10 is not that great, but it's tournament play, man. It's all about different. Washington, I think they could do it.
I went with Utah, not for any particular reason, but when I saw the way that Washington's played this year, I get it, they're the Pac-12 team, that the bigger conference and everything than Utah is, but they did win the Mountain West. They split it, but they still won the Mountain West in the regular season. They won the tournament as well. I think Utah is a better team than everyone gives them credit for. I think they're going to get through this round. I can't make any promises next round, though, when they play North Carolina.
Bees is going with the Mormons. I didn't know they were playing.
Well, that's Utah, man. I mean, he's all in with them. I'm right there with you, Bees. I think they're the right team to pick here. Then again, guys, if you disagree, again, this one's a close one. An 8 versus a 9, it's hard to call. I just don't believe in the Pac-12 this year. I don't think they're going to make much of a splash in the tournament.
That's BYU, not Utah State. Just FYI.
They're all Mormon out there. Moving forward,
No,
Auburn.
they're not.
Auburn versus New Mexico State. Drew, you got a 5 seed that won the SEC tournament when you're talking about better teams being in there. Coached by Bruce Pearl, who's definitely made an impact when you talk about Tennessee sports and everything. He's a good basketball coach as well. As a 5 seed, is that the right spot for Auburn? Would you like to see him higher? Would you like to see him lower?
I'd like to see him a little bit higher. I mean, to be honest with you, when I look at this, I don't really think North Mexico State's going to be much of a matchup for him. New Mexico State's going to be much of a matchup for him. I think Auburn's going to be a difficult team to beat. I think if Kansas can beat Northeastern, it's going to be an issue to beat Auburn.
Will's disagreeing with me. He says he changes his vote because I picked Utah. Look, it's a coin flip. Really, this is like one of those 51-49s for me. So, Will, you might be right on that one. I'll definitely buy that. Everyone else is agreeing Auburn is the better team here. I think Auburn's going to win this. They're coming off big wins here. Obviously, they dominated Tennessee in the SEC championship or whatever, the tournament final. They dominated them. It wasn't close at all. They won by like 20-some points, Drew. Yeah. They killed them. I think they're the team that's played the better teams. They're definitely more polished. I think they're going to win that one pretty easy. Moving forward, number 4, Kansas, which I get it has not had an ideal year this year, but they're playing Northeastern, Drew. Are they going to have any trouble in this one? I really shouldn't even ask you with you being a Kansas boy, but are they going to have any trouble in this matchup, or are they getting through?
I think they're going to have trouble with every matchup they get. You know, Vic, their senior, being out for the rest of the year, it's a hit. I mean, they're just not the team that they used to be. You know, how many times can you lose all your good players and try to keep on getting new recruits in and keeping a solid nucleus? It's really hard, especially when you lose a senior like Vic. You're gonna feel it. You're definitely gonna feel it. But Northeastern should not be much of a step over for them. Kansas should take them.
They are on a 7-game win streak before the tournament. At least they're on a 7-game win streak. I like that about Northeastern, but that's about all I like. I really can't say anything else that's nice about them. So I'm going to go Kansas here. I think injuries aside, they're going to have enough talent to sit there and overcome the first round. Watch for the 4th seed to move on, and we're going to be talking about them versus Auburn in round 2, which is going to be a good matchup.
This should be a good matchup.
Moving forward, though, Drew, Iowa State versus Ohio State. Ohio State coming in as the 11th seed, Drew. Obviously, a bit disappointing for a bigger school. It's a shell of itself. Obviously, last year was a much better year for them. I don't see them really making a big impact in this, but they might upset this one. I could see this as an upset game.
Yeah,
in fact, I'm picking them. I'm going to go Ohio State here. I think they're going to upset Iowa State here. I like Iowa, but I'm worried about this one. I think Ohio State's going to make a good impact here. And Ohio State is talented in its deep team. I like all the talent on this roster. I think they're a really deep team. They've got guys coming off the bench that are good, but they're not consistent. No. And when you're not consistent and you don't really get a lot of time to game plan for somebody, it's really easy to come up short. That's why I'm going to go Ohio State here.
Bees is saying that this is the best game of the first round, and he's picking Ohio State. Sharif is going Iowa State. Sam says, let's go to the Final Four, man. If you buy the tickets, I am there.
Absolutely. It'll be fun. I don't know, man. Guys, let us know in the comments. Again, I think this might be a good upset game. Drew, you're kind of in the opposite direction. You think this is Iowa all the way, right?
Iowa State, it's good. They did well in the Big 12 tournament. I think it's a possibility they can... They're going to beat this team. That's just my opinion.
Everyone's kind of agreeing with me here. Will's saying Ohio State. Bees is saying Ohio State. Well, Sharif's saying Iowa with you as well. Again, I think this is one of the better games. I don't fault you going either way here, but at least for the fan vote, I think Ohio State's got to take the trophy.
11/6. Marking it down.
Our number 3 seed, Houston, is going up against Georgia State. And honestly, there's only, with 2 losses, I got to go Houston here. 2 losses for an entire season, man. Absolutely great. They won their tournament as well. They swept a team like Cincinnati. They've beaten LSU. They've beaten Utah. They beat Oregon before Bol got knocked out. So they got him with their best player. This is a team to watch. Houston might make one of those deep Elite 8, maybe even Final Four kind of runs this year where they're a team that nobody's really expected to come out of the woodworks. These are guys that have beaten great teams. They're a good team themselves. I have to go with them. There's no way I can go Georgia State
here. They're a great scoring team, too. I mean, talk about a team that can put up points quickly.
Then again, what have I been saying about all my upsets here until now? They shoot good threes, and that's what Georgia State does. 39% from the three-point line. They led the Sun Belt in that. Drew, I can't sit there and tell you they're going to win this one, but I still, if I have to pick a team, I want to see them shoot threes. If there's one thing I want to see an underdog do, it's shoot threes because they can get hot and win that game. Yeah. Georgia State might be able to do that, but I'm still going Houston.
I think everyone's going Houston as well.
All right, not our final matchup, our second to last matchup, we have Wofford versus Seton Hall. Drew, Seton Hall, they've kind of been in the news a little bit lately here, or not this year, but the past couple of years. They've kind of made some impacts, but they're one of the worst defenses this year. I mean, they beat teams like Kentucky, Villanova, Marquette. They're 3-1 against Villanova and Marquette. I mean, they've got good wins. They've got good wins for a 10 seed, man.
Brian, I agree. Houston does need to join the Big 12. Dude, Seton Hall, as much as their defense isn't the greatest thing in the world, they can put up points again, just like Houston can. I like this team going forward.
Then you talk about Wofford on a 20-game win streak. 20 games in college basketball here, Drew. Does that matter to you? I mean, I get it. They're not playing the best competition. I don't know. I'm going to go Seton Hall here, too.
I'm going Seton Hall. No, it's just a whole different atmosphere when you hit the bracket. When you hit March Madness and you go through this tournament, it's completely different. I don't care who you are. I mean, ask Virginia last year. I mean, it doesn't matter what you're streaking on. It's different. It's 0-0 as soon as it hits this tournament.
I still like the streak because, again, it's one of those things that you're coming in hot, you're coming in ready to win, and, again, not a lot of game plan time, so especially for round one, I like seeing you on a streak. But I can't sit there and say Wofford's played the same kind of talent Seton Hall has, and Seton Hall has the big wins. I get it, they haven't been as good through the stretch, but I'm still going to go with them. Our final game.
Everyone's going with Seton Hall as well.
Our final game of the night, we have Kentucky versus Abilene Christian. So I look at this, Drew. Kentucky, obviously, they're a good team. They're one of the premier, they're one of the most storied legacies in college basketball. Can you say anything about Abilene Christian that says they're going to win?
No.
I can. They're the Southland Conference's best defense, and this is their first NCAA tournament. It's just a shame they have to play a steamroller like Kentucky. I mean, again, they were great defense for their conference, but you look at who they're playing, you look at all the resume. They've beaten teams like Louisville, they've beaten Tennessee, they've beaten North Carolina, they've beaten Kansas. Kentucky is still a great team that's got a great coach. They're going to make an impact in this one, and they're going to win this game. There's no way they get upset here.
Thomas says he's from Columbus, and Ohio State did not deserve to get in. Watch for Buffalo and Wisconsin.
I like the Buffalo pick. I like Wisconsin as well. I think I have them both getting through the first round. We'll see about later in the tournament, though. I don't want to spoil anything here, but we'll have those picks out before Thursday. Drew, I take it you're taking Abilene Christian in this round, correct?
How'd you know? And you spell it C-E-N-T.
Anyway, leave Drew alone on his spelling. Kentucky needs to win this game, is going to win this game, and will win this game. I don't think there's any kind of upset here, Drew.
Will's saying Abilene will dominate.
All right, Will. I'll take a beer bet on that one if you want to offer it. Going forward, though, Drew, we're going to talk about the rest of this tournament here coming up tomorrow. We're going to do a special episode to talk about the next 2 rounds of the tournament so we don't just, drone on forever and ever on this.
3 days in a row of shows.
Absolutely. It's going to be fun. I can't wait. Absolutely. We want to get it all out there before the tournament because if there's a team or a matchup you're not sure about, we want to get that set before the tournament starts. We're going to be back on Tuesday. Same time, still 6:45 to talk about the next couple rounds.
Why don't you go ahead and let them know about our mock draft as well?
One more time, guys. We're doing an NFL mock draft picked entirely by you guys.
Just the first round.
Just the first round. If you need any help, me and Drew are going to be here for it. We still have about 10 to 12 teams. If you're interested in being a part of it, let us know in the comments. Send us a message, however you want to get involved. We want to hear from you guys as to who's going to go. Even if you're not the most knowledgeable on these guys, we will help you through the process. We want to know what you guys think these teams are going to do come April.
Then let's make it a lot of fun. It's going to be pick your team you don't like, but let's pick responsibly when we pick for them. Let's not pick a punter at round 1 at the number 10 pick. But join us. It's going to be a great time to go through a mock draft and see what all you guys think the team should be grabbing.
Absolutely, Drew. Before we get out of here, man, we want to do some special thanks because it's been a great show. We appreciate you guys picking along with us. We can't wait to see how your picks do against our picks. I just hope some of these favorites win these so I can sit there and rub it in your face. Because we've got some upsets on the board.
Adam, I'm glad you could join us, even though it's late, man. I mean, it's always good when you get in no matter what. And just real quick, thanks, guys. Just thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you for all the comments. We love talking sport with you guys. Just real quick, special thanks to Matthew, Joshua, Charlie, Sharif, Michael, Bees, Will, Brian, James, Chris, Shay, Josh, Kenneth, Samuel, Thomas, Corey, Adam. You guys are all awesome. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, guys. We can't wait for Thursday because we're ready for this tournament to get underway, but we will help you with those brackets until then. So for Sports Around the Bar, I'm Jake, your bartender. This is Drew, and we will see you guys next time.
See ya.